Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
Hello, all, and welcome back here to Hamlet Without Hamlet. I am your co-host, Ian, here today with my co-host, Tim.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Excited to have you join us today as we kind of decompress about the Oscars. As you can see, we have a couple other faces with us. David, who you know, and then Luke is joining us as well. Luke, you want to say a couple words?
Me and David are co-hosts.
Yes.
And part of the BOA team that's blessed us with their presence and engineering and studio operation.
Yes. All great guys. Can't wait to chat.
So, Tim, you kind of called it, Anora.
Yes. I actually, the bracket went pretty well. There was 23 categories, and I got 21 right. So that feels pretty good. I am still yet to get a perfect bracket. One year I was one away. I did not expect Anora to get editing. That was a little bit of a surprise. I had Conclave getting it, and if it didn't get it, I thought it would go to Dune. But what can you do? And then I missed, I think it was animated short, or maybe live action short. That I didn't actually see.
Are like impossible though.
So, everything kind of went as the odds makers expected, except for Best Actress, really. So that was kind of an exciting moment. I was really pulling for Chalamet to make it happen after his SAG win 2 weeks ago. It wasn't to be. But yeah, Nora pulled it out. It was nominated for 6, and it won 5 of them, including Best Picture, Director, Actress, Screenplay, and Editing. And Sean Baker, who, Luke, I know you're a big fan of the Florida Project. He wrote, edited, and directed this movie, which is an amazing accomplishment, and it's a very indie film, especially in today's standards. So he becomes the first person since Walt Disney to win 4 Oscars in one night, and the first person to win 4 Oscars for the same movie. So history was made, which is incredible.
It's getting hard to make history when they're almost up to 100.
Yes, and I don't know that it'll happen again. I know Bong Joon-ho, who directed Parasite, technically went home with 4 statues, but one of the categories they won for was Best International Film, which technically goes to the country that nominated the movie. So it went to South Korea, not to him, but he accepted it on the country's behalf. So again, it's semantic technicality, but he won 3, left with 4. Sean Baker actually has his name on 4 of them, which is very impressive. It's as I mentioned before, I don't know that I'll watch it again. I feel like maybe if I did, I might like it more and feel a little less.
And why would you say that?
At the end of it, I think just time to kind of tease it apart a little bit and chew on it in my mind, and being able to hear some other people's thoughts on it, having now seen it and being a part of some of that discussion, I feel like might inform the viewing experience a little bit more than just trying to take it all in the first time. Because I would say if you were going to go by like a per scene ratio, this movie has the most actors yelling and or talking over one another in film history. It is it is ludicrous. Sometimes it's very funny. And I mean, that's an aspect to this. Jason Parkin, who I've mentioned before on our podcast here, one of my favorite TikTok creators, also an author, he talked about that Sean Baker did a really, really good job of manufacturing/writing chaos, which sounds like it would be easy, but it is not. So again, I think it's those things from more of a filmic standpoint that I would enjoy more on a second watch when I'm not trying to just process the story.
I'm really curious how, like, what the screenplay actually looks like. How much of that was improvised on set, and how much of it is actually written out dialogue that they had to talk over each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I do enjoy when I've seen videos from time to time of like it's a side by side of the scene and then the script following along with it, so you can see when it's word for word, when they add those beats and those pauses, and what they choose to edit out. I most recently saw one from A Real Pain with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, who won for Best Supporting Actor with a runaway. And again, it just adds more depth to what the actors bring to it, but also lets you see how the words in the page are already there to tell the story. It's just breathed with life by the actors. So it's a really cool exercise to see something like that. So yeah, I'd be interested to see that. And one of the other things that Sean did really well, and I would be the first to admit, I don't think I've seen any of his other movies. I haven't watched The Florida Project. I haven't watched Red Rocket. So this is my first foray into him. It sounds like he likes the indie, very dark comedy route, which isn't necessarily my favorite style. But he, like, one of the characters that becomes a main character starts out as what you think is just like the rich guy's henchman, that in any other movie or TV show would just remain a background character, because that's how we just come to partake of movies. But in this case, as the story progresses and chaos ensues, he moves from the background to become the linchpin of kind of the emotional weight of the movie. So kind of, flipping, no pun intended, flipping the script on the usualness of how movies like this work, while also playing with class and, reaching above your station, and how the actions we take can cause waves elsewhere, and for others that they just have to deal with, whether we're aware of it or not, or care or not. So, like I said, I feel like I would get more out of it on a second viewing. I just don't know if I want to watch it again. So, Mikey was really good. I would say it's hard to know from this one performance if she just knows this New York, New Jersey type girl really well and can play that, or if she has the depth and breadth of, say, like a Rachel Weisz or a Kate Winslet or an Amy Adams or something like that, where, this is the only movie I've seen her in. She's been in some other stuff. I know she was one of the members of the Manson family in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If any of you have seen that, I know you haven't, Ian.
Hey.
Oh, she was one of those. Oh, okay.
She's the one at the end that gets burned and thrown into the pool.
Well, spoilers.
Hey, yeah, come on.
Only some of that movie is real history, man.
Yeah, you can look it up. Most of it is not. But that's Quentin's latest, right? Or has he done one since?
Yeah, I don't think he's done anything since then yet. Supposedly he was only going to do 10 films, and that was his 9th, I believe. So if he's actually considering sticking to that, he might be carefully considering what he wants to do for his last major film. I would be shocked if he sticks to it, but
yeah, you'd think after the run he's had that he would keep going, but also if that's his goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice round number, and he's always said, I'd rather Ride On the Sunset and have people going, I wish I had more Quentin, than to be like, that was one too many.
Well, I mean, Inglourious Basterds was fantastic, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was absolutely fantastic as well. I was not a huge fan of The Hateful Eight. It was well done, but I just didn't enjoy it particularly. Django was fun, but a little more forgettable.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm a big Quentin fan, but for me, Once Upon a Time and Inglourious Basterds were much more ambitious and much more well executed.
Still can't top Jackie Brown for me, but I would put Once Upon a Time second, then the Kill Bill as a movie third, and
I
then
need to watch Jackie Brown again. I haven't seen that since we watched it in college.
I
I
love
don't
it.
even remember anything about it.
Oh, fantastic. So, it's Conan O'Brien did great, I think, overall. Took some digs at the lead actress for Amelia Perez, which were pretty funny. Made a joke at her expense, and then said, "If you tweet about this later, I'm Jimmy Kimmel," which was pretty good. And then about halfway through the show, he came out and said, "It's about halfway through the show, so this is the part where Kendrick Lamar comes out and accuses Drake of being a pedophile."
Yep.
Wow.
And then there's the beats, the laughter cruising around the room. Some moans, and he goes, "It's all right. I'm lawyered up." I would say the show got started a little slow. I think it was 27 minutes in before they awarded supporting actor. Usually that's like right out the gate to get the viewers in the door. But they did, I think it was almost 10 minutes with Ariana Grande doing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Then Cynthia did a song from The Wiz. And then together they did Defying Gravity, which was amazing to watch live. They wrapped that up, and then Conan came out and did his opening monologue, and then said that we got to get going, and then did a song and dance of a song called "I'm Not Going to Waste Your Time." It's very Conan.
It
was
that
2.5
feels very
minutes.
reminiscent of "We Saw Your Boobs" to me. It's a very meta song.
So, that was funny, but we'd already heard 3 songs already. So I feel like if they weren't going to do the first thing to the Wizard of Oz, that would have played more.
I mean, we're getting into Emmys territory now. We're talking about the actual show itself more than the movies that we're focused on too.
Mm-hmm.
And does that feel like the way the Oscars is going a little bit?
No, I just mean the Emmys give awards to award shows for TV televised award shows.
Yeah, usually for production.
So like the actual presentation of the Oscars is up for Emmy consideration then.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm tracking now.
Yeah.
So like the actual what was the order that they did it in? How entertaining was it? Did people enjoy the show? Was it well performed? Like that's what we're getting onto right now is Emmy stuff.
So it was fine. I'm glad I got to skip the commercials because I paused it while we were putting the kids to bed. I could have done without Adrian Brody.
Just in general.
We talked about The Brutalist.
Yeah.
It was a brutal movie to watch. I thought he was pretty good in it. It didn't blow me away. I don't have as much problem with them using AI to tweak his Hungarian accent as other people do.
When you're getting best actor for it, it seems like it's kind of
a lot of people were like, that should be an automatic disqualification, full stop. I mean, maybe. I also am not on the know to know how much that was used, if it was literally one line, or if it was 25 minutes worth of a scene, and how much was tweaked, if it was, one uptone on one consonant or something. That nuance, I don't know. But it doesn't necessarily change his performance. But again, the devil's advocate there is, well, you disqualify Andy Serkis from getting Best Actor for these mocap performances as
Well, no, but that's
King Kong and
AI.
Gollum
This is
and-
AI we're talking about. That's the big boogeyman in Hollywood right now. Is AI is going to come take all your jobs.
Mhm.
And so I think the fact that they did still award it to him, to me, that tells me that AI is going to win in Hollywood ultimately. As much as the artists don't want it to, they still voted for it. And they're not sticking to their convictions about that, then they're not going to be able to hold it off if that's something that's really important to them. They're going to have AI generated script writing, they're going to have AI generated visual effects, they're going to have AI generated everything at some point. They can have AI regenerate dead actors to star in films.
Yeah. I mean, without the knowledge of knowing how many people in the Academy, one, actually watched The Brutalist, and of that group, were aware that this was a controversy, and three, were aware before they voted.
Yeah, it's a fair question.
So
it's a fair question, but AI is just that's like everyone I know in Hollywood talks about AI taking people's jobs.
Mm-hmm. But he's already won for The Pianist, which I thought he was better in than this. But that was 2003, 4, I think. So he hasn't really done, other than the Grand Budapest Hotel. I'd have to look at his filmography. I don't think there's a really good movie that he's done since then. So he's kind of just been like this middle of the road, middle quality films, and then all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do a prestige film and win an Oscar. And then he gave the probably second most pompous speech I've heard. It was the longest acceptance speech in Oscars history. Started out with him walking up on stage and realizing he had gum in his mouth, and rather than swallow it or hold it in his cheek, he spat in his hand, turned around, and threw it to his girlfriend, who, unrelated to him per se, is Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, who's in jail for many sexual assault crimes, for those that don't know, possible viewers.
Yeah.
And he started to get played off after like maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. And he's like, no, cut the music. I'm not done yet. I've been here before. I know how this goes. Like, what are you doing, dude? Get off.
Did they cut the music, though?
And he says at the end, he's like, I've been here before, but I will be brief. And I saw that posted, and the comment I put was Ron Howard's narrator voice. He was not brief. Because he went on for another almost 4 minutes. So
wow.
Then he started to get played off again at the end. He's like, yeah, I guess I should wrap it up.
It's all relative, right?
So, and again, his speech wasn't overtly political, but it also wasn't like much to it. To go on for almost 6 minutes, and all your big takeaway is racism is bad. Feels like there should be a little bit more to it. But, that was probably my downer of the night. Would have been nice to see Demi Moore win, but I'm okay for her not winning for that movie. I thought Fernanda Torres did better. I did get a chance to watch I'm Still Here before the Oscars.
Nice. What do you think of that?
I thought it was amazing. She was phenomenal. Easily my favorite actress performance of the year. Followed probably by Rebecca Ferguson in Dune Part 2, and she was not nominated. But she probably would have been supporting. It's hard to know with a 3-hour-long movie. They both kind of carry it. But what else?
Well, one other thing that we talked about in our first podcast about this was Amelia Perez and 13 nominations, which was really, really high. They walked away with 2, right?
It sure did.
2 wins.
Yep.
2 wins.
It was Zoe, and what was the other one? Was it
best song? Which
it was technical kind of thing.
Again, nobody could even attempt to sing that song because it's more like spoken sung, kind of
Hmm.
Rex Harrison style, but in Spanish.
Mm.
It's I can't believe that one won. But then the writer went up on stage and tried to lead, it seemed like, the crowd in a little bit of like the Amelia Perez song, but nobody knows it because it's not a good song. So she's up there on stage in front of, 5,200 people, or how many fit in that theater, plus, close to 1 billion more around the world. And she's just, doing a karaoke night. That was probably the cringiest moment of the night. Unless she's like leaning into the fact like nobody likes her movie anymore, so I'm gonna kind of lean into this. But I don't think she was.
Well, and the title of the song that won is, I mean, check my Spanish, but I'm pretty sure it's The Bad.
The Bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Which brings a little
the context
irony.
of the song, and I will say that was probably my second favorite song from the movie. Again, that's
Good.
a low bar.
What was number one for you then?
I
The
think
one that
the
was
opening song was Zoe Saldana. I don't even remember the name of it. I thought the choreography was really cool, but again, it was just sort of like sung spoken patter with like
Was it
hand
Mi
motions.
Camino? Was it Mi Camino? That was the other one that was nominated.
I don't remember. Again, nothing really stands out other than the
Yeah,
penis to vagina.
yeah, that's the one that really. That one clip like killed them, I think. More than
Many
anything
other
else.
things did.
So I mean,
Yeah,
there's
there's
plenty
a
of other
couple.
things, but that was the thing that went around on social media. You didn't even see like the rest of that song. It's just that one thing over and over, and like, how is this nominated for any Oscars?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It felt like the music was AI generated, which I can't prove,
Yeah.
but it also feels like an AI machine would make a better song than that. But maybe that's giving it too much credit. I don't know.
Yeah, that song is a photograph with 3-fingered hand in it.
Where it all of a sudden like goes through their face.
Exactly. I was kind of surprised that they won that one just because they had two nominated for Best Original Song, and that historically that can split the vote. And if there's another strong contender that can surpass it. So there must have been a relatively weak field, is what that tells me.
It's
Just
possible.
looking at it.
But
Because
I
historically,
don't know if
like,
there's
I mean, I think it was
a real contender that would have taken it away. But
was
I
it,
was glad that was the only two that
Enchanted?
won.
Enchanted was nominated for at least 2, maybe 3 original song category, and they didn't win any because they split the vote too much.
Yeah. So again, I walk away glad that Amelia didn't win more, and certainly glad that it didn't win Best Picture. But also out of the 9 films I saw, I'd probably rank Anora 6th. So for me, that's not the greatest outcome.
No.
But I think they got it right last year, so I feel good about that. And the Academy doesn't always / usually get it right for my preferences. So we'll see how they do next year. I would assume Wicked 2, if it doesn't suck, will be nominated and probably get more awards for the cumulative effort next year. So we'll see if Cynthia gets her EGOT finally.
It's fun to see Dune Part 2. Again, I had very limited viewing of these, but it was fun to see Dune Part 2 get best sound and best visual effects. Because the way that they crafted those things for the world building in Dune was really, really cool. Yeah. And then looking at for visual effects, looking at the other movies they're up against, right? The Alien Romulus movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. There's a lot going on there. So
Real good stuff. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
still
for
blown away
sure.
by the Planet of the Apes series. It's just so good across the board.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
I think that one they've done a really good job of building that world out to make it feel real.
Mhm.
I was really surprised that Anora was able to hold the attention of the voters for as long as it did. That's something, because that was one that I saw getting hyped up as, oh, you should see this movie. This is like the darling of Cannes Festival, and it's just sustained. It was a pretty small film, as you mentioned. It still hasn't grossed a lot of.
yeah, like 40 million.
Yeah, it's still pretty on the low end. I think that's pretty close to what the Hurt Locker did when that was the lowest grossing Best Picture winner some 15 years ago now, I suppose. But
But the
it's
Hurt Locker was a
often
good
very
movie.
difficult. It's very difficult for a film to maintain momentum in award season. That's why so many movies that are Oscar bait films tend to come out October, November, December, try and get in just under the wire for nominating. They still technically came out in the 2024,
Mhm.
but they're more conscious in the person's mind. They're more recent in their mind, especially a film like this that's so small. It's not like Dune, where it was really all over the news. There were ads everywhere. It was a very high grossing film. It was the second movie, so there's a ton of awareness for it. That also came out earlier in the year, but obviously it didn't do as well in the awards.
Yeah.
So I was really quite surprising to see Anora hold on to that momentum throughout this whole season and process, and not get knocked off by any of the other movies that were nominated against it. All came out months afterwards.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, just as a side note, the Anora winning Best Picture, the big secret that is, I don't know how much is a secret, but it was the big like insider scoop I saw in LA years ago. The winner of the Producers Guild Awards wins Best Picture about 95% of the time, because there's such a crossover in the voters for the Academy and the voters for the Producers Guild. And so even like big Academy Awards shockers often are predicted a month before at the Producers Guild Awards. So if you're filling out a bracket for your Oscar party next year, just Google up who won for Best Picture. That happened this time. Anora won for the Producers Guild last month. So
Mhm. I would be very curious to see what might have changed if Dune hadn't come out till Thanksgiving.
yeah. Didn't the first one come out in like November or December last time?
It's quite possible, but I do not remember.
Well, this one was delayed with COVID, right?
I don't remember. I remember when it came out last year, I was a little surprised that they were putting out a movie that big that early in the year, because I didn't remember there being a whole lot of big tentpole films that would compete against it outside of like Deadpool and Wolverine or Moana 2 that were projected for the year. So it felt like, for that big of an achievement of film that people have been waiting for, that the insider buzz was it's amazing, which it was, why they wouldn't hold on to it a little bit longer. But maybe Dennis is just like, I'm good without an Oscar. I haven't got one yet, so let's move along. Or maybe he's anticipating it for the third one in the franchise.
What it says here is that it was originally slated to come out in November of 2023, and it was delayed for the strikes. That's what it was. And so that got pushed all the way back to March of this past year. So
yeah,
almost 6 months that was pushed back over the strikes. I'm actually kind of surprised at how long the strikes dragged on, that they were able to get it out with as quickly as that. But a lot of other things have been delayed like a year or more too, just because their production schedule got completely, they didn't even get started.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been an interesting take on the Oscar seasons last year, because Barbie and Oppenheimer came out right next to each other in the middle of summer and both carried their own steam all the way. And if Dune just went like right at the beginning of December,
Right.
that may have changed the narrative a little bit. But instead, it got shoved and apparently barely even remembered, which is, for what many people will have stated, or at least consider in kind, one of, if not the best sci-fi film in the last 25, 30 years, if not ever, to walk away with two.
And with that said, how many sci-fi films really win Best Picture have there been?
Very, very few. I mean, Return of the King, you might
Sci-fi
toss
if you want to
Everything
go
Ever All
sci-fi
at Once
fantasy,
in there.
I think you could call Shape of Water a sci-fi film.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few nominees, but they are very few and far between of any awarded.
Let me see here.
Was Interstellar was nominated, right?
It was nominated. It didn't
Star Wars was
win.
nominated.
Gravity was nominated.
Empire Strikes Back was
There's a
nominated.
lot that are nominated if you wanted to go into that. But
Yeah, there's plenty that are nominated, but ones that actually win, I feel like
actually
that's a hard one to
winning,
get to
that's
win.
a harder sell. That's fair.
Yeah. Sci-fi and horror, the Academy just doesn't see as weighty.
Yeah.
But I will note that prior to 2011, any sci-fi or horror film that got nominated or won for Best Picture is an even bigger feat, because they only nominated 5 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, they've nominated up to 10. So when Star Wars got it, that was an even more impressive feat, that it was largely considered a top 5 film of the year, despite its genre.
Which makes sense.
So
I'm pretty sure Midnight Cowboy is not, but it sounds like it should be.
Hey, there's an article on this. Sci-fi movies that won Oscars.
I feel like it's going to be Shape of Water and Metropolis or something.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
Okay,
The Time Machine, Fantastic Voyage, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes, Star Wars.
Nominated?
No, these are winners.
Oh,
Theoretically.
not Best Picture, just winners in general.
Yeah, could be.
2001 didn't win Best Picture,
No.
I don't think.
None of the ones you've said so far have won Best Picture.
Oh, okay. So these are not what I searched for. Was Best Picture winners, but what I got is anyone who won Oscars.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's plenty of sci-fi that wins in the category of
Sound and special effects.
Sound, production design, costume,
makeup. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that Best Picture seems to be reserved for those quintessential Oscar films.
Yeah.
That hardly anybody sees or watches.
Like, again, Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers probably could have won in the years that they were nominated, but they waited to award everything to Return of the King, which is fine, I guess. It still feels like if it was the best movie, it was the best movie.
But that's not how this works. You know that.
I don't know if $1 Million Baby is a better film than Fellowship of the Ring, but here we are. So
I would venture that it's not. I would even go so far as to say that it isn't. I don't care what babies I upset. $1 million, $1 billion baby. I don't care.
Well, and it's crazy just some of these years and who gets nominated and awarded. Looking back when you guys talked about The Hurt Locker winning and that being one of the Oscar films that won that I've actually seen. And that year, The Hurt Locker, Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, Inglourious Bastards.
I mean,
what a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to other years where you've heard
somewhere
of
it seems like no one wants to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with like 94. We had Forrest Gump, Shawshank, Pulp Fiction, and Quiz Show. One of my favorites.
Which most people don't know, but it is a fantastic film. I know that's your favorite.
Hey, you forgot 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
I did. I've never
Yep.
seen it.
I did, and that
did
was
he
an
forget it?
intentional
Hey, Tim, I've never heard you talk about Quiz Show. Do you want to go on for 15 minutes about Quiz Show?
Would you like to quiz me about
You
Quiz Show?
haven't?
Give it its Oscars limelight today.
No,
For the record,
we've talked about it several times. I have seen it. It is good.
For the record,
I had one other
not
I had one other
nominated.
note, Tim, from our previous conversations, and that was Conclave.
Mhm.
Are you surprised at all where Conclave landed, where it won, best screenplay, but nothing else? Because you were pretty positive on it, and I've heard a lot of great feedback about that movie as well.
I'm not surprised, like I said, because of the odds going into it. That was the clear front runner for screenplay. I had Rafe as my second favorite performance behind Timothy.
Okay.
So I'm, again, not surprised, but bummed that Adrian did win because I would have preferred one of the other two. And then Conclave was second in the odds behind Honora for Best Picture. So if there had been an upset, it likely would have been that over Honora.
Gotcha.
And I will admit, coming out of SAG, I had the smallest glimmer of hope since they won Best Ensemble that maybe there was enough Academy voters that had been like, you know what? Let's do that one. But no, none of it was really surprising. It's just, all right, well, it's final.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think everyone's big sigh of relief is that Amelia went from it's going to sweep to only the locks and barely even that, to not put a black mark on everything.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that they kind of got to get a jail free card with everything that happened before the Oscars. We can get away from this one now.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the Academy has also made some missteps by choice, with awarding an Oscar to Roman Polanski while he's in, extradition in Europe, avoiding jail time in the U.S. They still choose to award him an Oscar. It feels like, okay.
They're trying to get him to come back.
I mean, even that year when there was some other justifiably better options on the table, they still chose to go with him. Befuddling. But, I think it's getting better, but there's historically had definitely been an old boys club mentality that was pretty pervasive. And I'm excited about Mikey Madison's win for Honora because she is now the youngest or second youngest person to win. No, she's the youngest. Yes, she's the first one born in the 90s to win an acting Oscar. Timothy would have been second if he had won as well. But there's been propensity the last decade to award, especially on the female side, Meryl Streep, Frances McDormand, Jamie Lee Curtis, the legacy actresses. Again, some of it feels like it may be recompense. Sometimes it feels like it's earned. I would say that Michelle Yeoh last year or 2 years ago, really earned her award for Everything Everywhere at Once. I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis did. I don't even think she was the best supporting actress in her own film, let alone at the Oscars. But the other supporting actress was 29, and they didn't even nominate her, and she carried the emotional weight of the movie with Michelle Yeoh, and just nothing. So it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes, but it's always fun to engage with them. It widens out my scope of films that I wouldn't have otherwise come across or even attempted to see, that I take the time to watch and digest and talk about and enjoy the spectacle that is the Oscars more, and have conversations like this where I actually have something to say and care a little bit. So it'll continue to be one of my favorite things as long as I keep doing the Oscars.
And with that statement there, which film would you say that you gained the most appreciation or enjoyment from after watching that you didn't originally think you would?
Wicked, for sure. I love the music. I loved the musical. I listened to the music on repeat in college. Luke can attest. I had the soundtrack. I got it on vinyl. And then when I saw they were finally making the movie, I was on board with the Ariana Grande at first. I wasn't sure about Cynthia, not in her talent, but if she could transition to that role. And even the first trailer, I was like, are they gonna hurt me with this? And I was blown away by how good it was. As I mentioned before, it takes what was a really good musical, gives it more breadth and depth and time to breathe, and elevates every part of the musical in the filmic sense, makes it more grand, fills in some pieces, and I think brought a whole new generation and group of people that were wholly unaware of musical theater in general, that now are trying stuff that they wouldn't have otherwise, that are now going to stage shows because they saw Wicked, that are going to see Wicked to see the second act. Apparently there's people that are going to the show now and leaving after the first act because they don't want to get it ruined for the movie. So I think that's blew me away with how well it was done. And it's clearly evident that everybody that was involved in it cared and loved and is passionate about the show and wanted to do it justice. And I went in hoping for like a 6.5, and I left and it was an easy 8.5, if not more. So in terms of where I thought it would be versus expectation, and it ended up here, was my favorite experience of the year, film-wise. So I think Dune Part 2 is still a better movie, but Wicked was my favorite film experience of the year. So, but great question, Ian.
Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
It's not what I expected just with our conversations we've had on what you would have picked, but I didn't realize you had Wicked ranked like such low expectations going into it. So very cool.
Yeah, once they started to do some like, I hesitate to say influencers because they aren't really, but they have like social media people and TikTok people that are like true musical theater fans and specifically Wicked fans, and they did private screenings for them with the cast to be like, hey, we actually care what you think first before we release this thing. What are your thoughts? Give us your feedback. We will listen. We might not change everything or anything, but we want to hear it. And the people coming out of that were so effusive of like, guys, I can't tell you anything other than you will not be disappointed. And some of them were like tears in their eyes kind of thing, because like me, they've been waiting since 2001 for this thing to happen. And to have it happen and happen so well and be curated by people that love it, for people that love it, but also welcoming in everybody that doesn't know about it, was really cool. So more to come.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I think that is a good little summary of this year's Oscars and a little conversation around the Oscars. You got anything else over there, Tim?
I don't. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, Luke.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, David as well.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for inviting us to be involved. I'm David with Becoming Our Age, and I look forward to watching Conclave on a plane soon.
Well, folks, yeah, thank you once again for joining us. We look forward to diving deeper into all things movies, media, and pop culture. Have yourself a great one, and we'll see you next time.